This week on What to Watch, we're picking up good vibrations from Katie Thurston and her transformative season of The Bachelorette.
Bring on the men!
Plus, Stephen King turned his novel Lisey's story into a creepy new miniseries. Sure hope nobody spoils it on Twitter, eh, Stephen? Put the kids to bed because it's time for What to Watch. At last, M&M's Mix, all together in one bag. Hello everyone and welcome to Entertainment Weekly's What to Watch, the show where EW staff help you solve your viewing dilemmas. I'm your host, Gerrad Hall, and kicking off Pride Month with me are critics Kristen, Baldwin, and Darren Franich, and digital writer Lauren Huff. Thanks for being here, everyone. How are you?
Good.
Good. How are you, Gerrad?
Great. So nice to see all of you. So let's get to it, shall we? The 17th season of The Bachelorette is upon us, and this time, The Bachelor alum Katie Thurston is the lucky leading lady looking for love. Say that 5 times fast. Trailers for the season are teasing plenty of drama between Katie and her 30 eligible bachelors, including one in a box. So Kristen, what can Bachelorette fans expect from this newest season?
Well, Katie is somebody who made an impression when she came in on The Bachelor. She was hailed for being sex positive. Great, fine, good for her. And then later there was a bunch of bullying, and mean girl stuff, and she stood up, to the girls about that, to the women. And so I think, people are looking for her outspoken and frank behavior.
Do you think and expect we're going to get all of that authenticity from her throughout the season?
Here's the thing. People show personalities on the season that they're on. And then once they become the Bachelor or the Bachelorette, they often can get produced into sort of personality oblivion. I think Katie will be somewhere in the middle. I think she'll definitely speak her mind and not put up with any garbage. But I also think that some of those edges that may have made her interesting / human when she was on The Bachelor may be smoothed away when she's doing her 900th confessional of the day.
Season 25 of The Bachelor that she was on, that, it ended with some controversy. It sparked a lot of conversations about the series as a whole and its spinoffs. Longtime host Chris Harrison has stepped aside for the time being. That came after he defended Rachel Kirkconnell after some frankly racist photos of her surfaced online. And now former Bachelorettes Caitlin Bristow and Tayshia Adams has stepped in as this season's host. Katie has called the season The Big Reset, and obviously a lot has changed. But do you think this big reset will have a lasting impact on the franchise and the future of The Bachelor and The Bachelorette?
I guess I would say it's a reset in that, we know from the beginning that there's no Chris Harrison for this season. Beyond that, I don't see, they certainly haven't made any decisions about Chris Harrison, whether he'll be back, whether he wants to be back. And going forward, I think the show will go back to traveling the world and elaborate dates and, a lot of windmills. I think the show works for a variety of reasons the way it is. And whatever happens with the host, I don't see a tremendous overhaul of what the other fundamental parts of this show.
Mm-hmm. Kristen, has the bubble had a noticeable qualitative effect on the franchise? Because to me, there are some shows, Cough, Jersey Shore, Cough, that got so much better during the pandemic. Has it gone the opposite way?
It's gone
Bachelor,
the opposite way
Bachelorette?
because it's the dates are so tragic. One girl's fantasy suite was in an Airstream trailer. It's not okay. Look, they're doing the best they can. They've done a great job as best they can. But even the producers are kind of we're running out of ideas here.
These men who are vying for Katie's love and affection, are any of them standing out to you? Anyone super promising just based on what you know so far?
Well, there are 2 men that stand out to me. One is named Marty. He has a kid in play high top fade, and chains. And his slogan is Marty brings the party. So I'm very into Marty, and I really want him to go all the way. I don't think he will. And then
sounds a little Jersey Shore-like, right?
Yeah, he's total GTL. And then there's a man named Jeff whose job is surgical skin salesman, which sounds like some crazy Buffalo Bill stuff to me. And I don't know what that is. I don't want to know what that is. I don't know. It makes me uncomfortable.
Darren, is this, just hearing this, is this what brings you back into The Bachelorette?
I have to say, it's sounding pretty David Cronenberg, and I'm totally on board. So, like, if this is how they're getting through the bubble, is with a surgical skin salesman coming in, then yes.
All right, guys, we need to take a quick break, but when we get back, we are going to switch gears from the current queen of reality TV to the reigning king of horror. Stay tuned. But first, today's How I Watch segment is brought to you by M&M's Mix.
Hi, I'm EW's Chancellor Agard, and this is How I Watch. We have candles for the vibes, an incense holder for even more vibes, my sacks for when I get bored in between commercials and need to get some practice in, a pillow featuring my first cover story that I cuddle after a long day, and of course, the TV remote. Happy watching, people.
Welcome back, King. Speaking of, this week, the Stephen King himself and Apple TV Plus are gifting fans of the genre a brand new miniseries based on his 2006 novel, Lisey's Story. The series stars Julianne Moore as the titular role, alongside Clive Owen, Joan Allen, Dane DeHaan, and Jennifer Jason Leigh. Quite a cast there. The story follows Lisey, the widow of a famous author, as she's pursued for her husband's work following his death. Now, Lauren, it's a beloved novel, and it has quite the stacked cast, as we just mentioned. So talk to me about these performances and how we think King fans will respond to the miniseries.
Well, I have to say there's not a clunker in the bunch. They're all incredible in very different ways. Dane DeHaan is the sort of crazed fan, if you will, the series' main villain, I would say, and he's terrifying. And Joan Allen is just absolutely incredible as Lisey's sister, Amanda. She's, dare I say, almost unrecognizable. I hate it when people say that generally, but I mean, she's incredible. And I mean, you can't go wrong with Julianne Moore and Clive Owen, of course. You
know, it's funny when you describe Dane DeHaan as being very creepy. It reminds me of something that, Darren, I think you once said to me. You were like, oh, is Dane DeHaan being very Dane DeHaan? Like, there's that thing he does very well. And I think that's what's on display here.
You don't really cast him to be in a rom-com, but that's okay. Like he has kind of murder eyes, and it sounds like this is the right role for that, based on what Lauren is saying.
Yes.
As I mentioned, this adaptation is of a novel, and he originally wrote this. Stephen King wrote it after he was hospitalized with pneumonia around 2000, and when he returned home, all of his work had been boxed up. And so this kind of led him to imagine this world that, you know, perhaps at one point they didn't think he was going to be so fortunate to return to. So how faithful is the original story in the grand scheme of things here?
It's incredibly faithful. They added a few things, mostly like sort of adding some creepy scenes with Dane, actually. But it's sometimes to the letter faithful to the book. And whenever I talked to Stephen King, he told me about how much this story means to him. As you mentioned, it's sort of inspired by something that happened in his life, even though it's not autobiographical in any way, shape, or form. But he talked to me about how it's his favorite of his stories. He loves it, and so whenever it came time to adapt it, he really wanted to write it. He wanted nobody else to do that. And so therefore it's incredibly, incredibly faithful, I would say.
And he's, of course, notoriously very detailed. So do you think the miniseries format benefits this, or could it have been just as good as a movie?
Yeah, that's actually something that we talked about as well. He felt really strongly that it had to be a limited series so that he could really get into the twists and turns and the characterizations and all of that. I think it was a good call to make it a limited series. that was the only way he was going to do it, I'm pretty sure. So
yeah, I mean, the way that he writes his novels, there's such yarns that go off in so many directions. I mean, I think that's kind of why people still remember the Stand miniseries, the original It miniseries, you know, when he did Storm of the Century as a miniseries. That seems to just kind of lend itself more to his style.
And of course, all of these adaptations are so much better when he is directly involved in them.
Except for The Shining.
Well, Okay, maybe there's that. There's always an exception to the rule, right?
I know that he didn't enjoy the Shining movie, and he wanted it to, he liked it better as the ABC miniseries, which, what was that? Steven Weber, right? Darren,
It was Steven Weber. Listen, Stephen King has written like 10 things just in the time since we started this, and he's had a million adaptations. One of the things I think is kind of cool about Lisey's story is I would like rank that like his 35th best book, and I mean that as a compliment because he's written like 1,000 books. So to me, it's actually just kind of cool that there's an author like him who's produced so much, and now the adaptations of his work are kind of their own gigantic set of things. I mean, it's amazing that like Lisey's story for any other author, you wouldn't think that would get a full miniseries treatment, and here it is getting Julianne Moore and Clive Owen. Like, I think that's pretty amazing.
And on that note, that is our show. So thank you so much to my guests, Kristen Baldwin, Lauren Huff, and Darren Franich. Happy Pride Month, everyone, and we will see you next week on What to Watch.